And Paul, you got the morning line back going again, even though you retired from the Cincinnati Enquirer. But you got the morning line revved up. Where can people find it every day?
Good morning, you guys. Thank you, Tom. It's themorningline.substack.com.
Okay. We got to make sure we start posting that when Doc joins us. Mm-hmm. Hey, while we're on this topic, before we get to the Bengals, Paul.
We weren't going to talk baseball with him.
Well, we weren't going to talk baseball with him, but I do have to ask him a question because Doc he really knows baseball. He knows the inner workings of baseball and where baseball is going, where baseball has been. This trio of outcomes that's now up over 40% of plate appearances in baseball games, and they being strikeouts, walks, home runs. I saw a stat the other day where as recently as 4 years ago, all 30 teams in the NFL in Major League Baseball had more hits than strikeouts over the course of a season. Right now, there are 19 of the 30 teams that have more strikeouts than base hits. How is that good for getting fans to watch the game?
Well, it's not. I think you answered your own question there, Tom. It's not. I'm hopeful that next year with the rules changes, maybe you'll see a few more base hits. Maybe you'll see players being valued once again for being able to hit the ball where it's pitched instead of swinging from their heels trying to hit the ball over the wall. I think that's going to be an outcome, but you're right. It's a problem. Nobody wants to see strikeouts. Strikeouts are if you're a pitcher, or if you're a fan of Hunter Green or Justin Verlander or Carlos Rodon, great. If you're Joe Average fan, you don't want to sit there and watch three guys swing from the heels and strike out.
All right, let's shift gears now to the Bengals. Your overall thoughts on what happened in Dallas on Sunday?
Again, they just, especially in the first half, Tom, they didn't look prepared. And especially on offense, they simply did not look ready to play regular season football. Now, again, we'll go back to what we said from the very first week I was on. You asked me about the wisdom of not playing starters, and I hedged because I see, or not playing starters in August. I see the benefits to doing that, and I also saw the drawbacks. We're seeing the drawbacks now. We can't lay it all on the fact that those guys didn't play all summer, but I think there's a part of it, especially the line, that you can see it. They're simply not regular season ready. You know what I mean? And in that respect, I wasn't that shocked. What did surprise me a little bit was there weren't a lot of adjustments being made to acknowledge that fact, and it's hard to adjust game plans in the middle of a game. But I saw the same plays being called and the same lack of success being had from them. I think this coaching staff is at a bit of a crossroads now with this line, I'm going to write about this for the morning line. There are really just two ways to look at this for Zac Taylor. Does Zac Taylor say, look, this line, we brought in three pretty good players. They're going to play. They're going to play well. They're physically okay. They're not hurt. They were good players from their former teams. They may be a little rusty still. We're going to just stick with what we're doing here and stay the course. Or two, we're 0-2, which is not awful. 0-3 would be awful. Therefore, we have to account for this line's underperformance by changing rather significantly the way we call plays. And I'm wondering which one they go with. I'm guessing they go with one. We're gonna go with what brought us here. We did, after all, make the Super Bowl last year. 2 games is 2 games. We're going to ride this thing out and try not to change things drastically. But we'll see.
I asked Brian Billick yesterday if during his coaching years, and look, he coached some great quarterbacks, and he coached some guys that he thought were going to be great quarterbacks, and he'll be the first one to tell you. Guys like Kyle Bowler, guys like that. He thought were going to be great quarterbacks. It never happened. I asked him if quarterbacks can get gun shy. And I'm sitting there looking at Joe Burrow, and, I'm sure he would sit here and say there's not a chance I'm gun shy, and I've never been gun shy. But I just find it very hard to believe, just human nature alone, because every time he takes the snap from center in the shotgun, he barely has time, Doc, to blink his eye before someone is on him right now.
Yeah. Well, we saw what happened. For those of us who've been around probably too long, we remember David Klingler. Now, I don't know if David Klingler would ever have been a great NFL or even a good NFL quarterback. And neither do the Bengals, because his first start, he got sacked 10 times by the Steelers. And he always had that look in his eye that said, I'm getting killed out here. Joe Burrow is not David Klingler, obviously. But I do think, as you said, Tom, it's human nature. If you've got to play quarterback when both of your eyes are looking side to side instead of in front of you, as good a guy Burrow might be as a quarterback with his peripheral vision, you need to look downfield and not hear footsteps. Whether he is or not, I don't know. I don't think so. But I wouldn't blame him if he were, and if this keeps up, he damn well might be. So that's a huge problem. If you can't do anything to solve the problem, you're not going to be the team that you think you should be.
Did you find the comments made by Jamar Chase? I don't know if you saw him. I'm sure you did. Did you find the comments he made after the game telling, reflective, foreshadowing, any of the above, or a word I'm not smart enough to think of?
The fact that they need to change things up, or that
that we're never going downfield, and my first reaction to that is, hey, Jamar, you're not the guy getting chased back there at quarterback, and yeah, you can't throw the ball downfield if you don't have any time and any protection to throw the ball downfield. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much of it. I'm trying not to be too negative. It's only 2 games into the season. But when a second-year player is coming out who unquestionably has been the best player on the team through the first 2 games of this year, and one could argue he was the best player on the team last year, when all of a sudden he feels confident enough to come out and start saying things about what they're doing and how they're running their offense, I find it very interesting.
I think he's stating the obvious. I mean, anybody can see that that's an issue right now. And he's also a wide receiver, and there's a bit of that diva in him. That when he says we're not getting the ball downfield enough, what he really means is I'm not catching enough balls deep. And that's fine. I mean, you want your guys to want the ball, obviously. But what he's saying, everybody else is seeing. The solution isn't as simple as let's start chucking it deep. It doesn't work that way. If you don't have 3 seconds at least, you're not going to be able to get the ball deep without taking somebody's helmet in your ribs. So they need to fix the protection before they can think about taking more shots deep. And you fix it one of 2 ways. You block better, or you design more realistic plays for the predicament that you find yourself in.
Do you think the criticism through the first 2 weeks of the season, and it's been heavy criticism on Zac Taylor, you think it's fair?
I don't think anything can be written in stone 2 weeks into a season. We love to do it. The NFL is the king of overreaction. ESPN even has that segment where they call it what an overreaction Monday or whatever it is, and they're right, and it's true. I've always said you don't judge baseball players by what they do in April or September. I'd like to say you shouldn't judge NFL teams by what they do in September either. Such a long year, Tom. I mean, there are 15 games to play. The division is a mess. I mean, Baltimore got embarrassed at home by Miami. Pittsburgh can't score. Cleveland is Cleveland. I mean, you give up 13 points in a minute and change at home to a Jets team that isn't very good. is Zac Taylor a great coach? I don't think so. I think he needs to shift his focus from micromanaging, which is play calling. And play calling is micromanaging when you think about it. Down, distance, situation. You got to do it every 30 seconds. That's micromanaging. I think he should be a CEO. He should be more worried about tone that he sets, expectations that he sets being met, and stop worrying about what to call on 3rd and 9. I would be all in favor of Brian Callahan taking over the play calling duties right now, but to say he's not a good coach or he's this or he's that after 2 games, the year after they went to the Super Bowl earlier than most expected, no, I don't think that's quite fair.
Okay. We talked about whether last Sunday's game was a quote-unquote must-win, even though it was only the second game of the year. But now you're 0-2.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, they have to beat the Jets, right? You start 0-3, and I know the division's a mess. You make a great point there because, somebody is going to win the division, duh. And who knows, maybe it's with a 9-8 record for all I know. But that gets you in the playoffs. May not get you a home game, but it gets you in the playoffs. They have to win this game, right, Doc?
Last week I said that they didn't have to. This week, yeah, for lots of reasons. One, the obvious statistical reason. I don't know what the number is, but teams that started 0-3, chance of making the playoffs are like you and I hitting the lottery for that reason. But you start 0-3 with another performance like they've had the first 2 weeks. The grumbling, the insider backbiting, chaos. I don't know, chaos is too strong a word. You start 0-3, you have suddenly lost all that, whatever you want to call it, mojo, it factor that they had last year. And I knew this would happen. Maybe not to this extent, but the Bengals had an amazingly fortunate year last year on all fronts, starting with injuries, lack of COVID, great chemistry, great team chemistry, and props to Zach for that. But that doesn't happen very often in the NFL, and if they go 0-3, the Three Musketeers kind of deal they had working last year will be gone, and it will make it that much harder for them to crawl back into the race.
All right, Brandon Seho, you want to ask Doc about something?
I just have a stat here. 6 out of 182 NFL teams since 1980 that started 0-3 made the playoffs. So that's 3.2%. Yeah, not great. My question, Doc, is you and I have been around Burrow a little bit. Obviously, the COVID stuff prevented us from being in the locker room a lot his first 2 years. Have you seen him be the way he was at that post game, and then last week during the media? If you watch that, it just seems like his demeanor is kind of shifted, like that confidence and that, how he knows how to act in front of the camera and talk. It seems like he's visibly frustrated now.
I think if you look for something hard enough, you'll see it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look hard and let's see, does Joe look this way or that way? At 0-2, I frankly just think he's pissed off. I don't think he's mad at anyone in particular. I think he's just mad at the whole situation, and I think he blames himself for part of it. Though he maybe should, maybe he shouldn't. I blame him for some of the stuff in Pittsburgh. I don't really blame him for what happened in Dallas. So I don't think so. I think it takes. You look at him, his character, his history, his makeup. I think it would take a lot for Joe Burrow to feel, I don't know, defeated.
Right.
I think if they start winning, the look will change. I just think right now. I just think he's kind of angry at the world.
Well, we always try to find some positives in this whole thing, and I think there are positives for the Bengals. I think before we let you go, Doc, the defense has been more than good enough to win football games. This defense has played well enough outside of that start in Dallas the other day where they gave up 14. They only give up 2 field goals the rest of the entire game. And this field goal kicker, outside of when the emergency long snapper comes in. This guy, McPherson, the more I watch him, this guy is incredible to watch do his job.
Yeah, no question. He's revolutionary in the opportunities that he is, the thinking that he has opened up around the league. In other words, nobody anymore is thinking, well, we can't try a 60-yard field goal. Why should we try that? Or we can't kick a 55-yard field goal. He's done that. He's extended what the guy in Baltimore has done forever. Only his are going 3 and 4 yards longer than the Baltimore guys have. As far as the defense goes, I sure would like to see them play well against somebody other than Mitchell Trubisky and Cooper Rush. And I guess this week they got Joe Flacco, who obviously threw 2 touchdown passes in a minute and change last week, but he's still Joe Flacco, right? They got a bunch of good quarterbacks they got to face later in the year, and before I anoint them as the best part of this team, I'd like to see them play a couple guys who can really sling it.
That's fair. They got Flacco this Sunday, and then 4 days later, some people are buying into Tua. I think the jury's still out on him. He's not been very good since he came into the league. He was good the other day when it mattered against Baltimore, but he would be next. Doc, thanks for your time, my man. Have a great day today. themorningline.substack.com. And we'll look forward to checking it out. Can't wait to see it. Thanks for your time today, my friend.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Paul Daugherty, retired columnist from the Cincinnati Enquirer, and now has cranked back up the Morning Line, where he basically hits on a bunch of different topics. Sometimes he'll get into some longer than others, which it sounds like he is for tomorrow's edition, because he's going to talk about the Bengals and the crossroads, as he just mentioned, this coaching staff is now facing.